Great. All right. So the September 16th, 2020 Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners meeting is now convened. Pam, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Platt?
Yeah, present.
Commissioner Gambetti?
Here.
Commissioner Stoudemire Wesley?
Present.
Commissioner Myers? And Chair Cruz?
Here. Thank you. All right. So would somebody like to start commissioner reports? First, do we have anything to report?
Yes, just briefly. Friday, August 4th, I chaired the Board of Directors meeting for Hacienda CDC. And let me see if there's anything else to report since last time. Looks like that's it.
Okay. Commissioner Stoudemire? Nothing to report?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Gambetti? Nothing? Okay. I have one item on September 3rd. I participated in a downtown cleanup event with the Portland Business Alliance, Solve, Travel Portland, and a couple of other organizations. And it was a very nice event. And the mayor was there, and I think we got a little bit of positive PR and energy out of it too. So that was nice. And I was actually kind of surprised. Downtown was a little more cleaned up already than I had anticipated. So it was a nice event though, and had a pretty good turnout. So, all right. And now Director Branham, would you like to give us a report?
Good afternoon, Chair Cruz and Commissioners. Nice to see you all. I'm going to just share some announcements and upcoming events. Really pleased to announce that the application period is now available for the latest round of the Small Business Relief Fund grant. As this body knows, we have $12 million in federal CARES funds available, and we hope to help approximately 700 vulnerable businesses with grants from $10,000 to $25,000. I want to make sure that people are aware that this is not a first come, first served process. So if it takes a little bit longer, that's okay. Please get your application in. Each completed application received will be reviewed. The application, program details, and frequently asked questions are available in English, Spanish, Russian, Vietnamese, and simplified Chinese. The application period is open now and closes on Friday, September 25th at 5 p.m. We plan to notify applicants by Wednesday, October 14th, and start dispersing funds soon after. You can obviously go to our website at prosperportland.us/relief, or you can call 503-823-4000 for more information and to apply. I often note it, but it really bears repeating that this is a true agency-wide effort with every department and team working to advance this critical program in really short order. So it's hard to almost name people because I know I will be forgetting folks, but I really want to acknowledge Amy Nagy, Lisa Norwood, Faith Aiken, Ann Mangan, Robert Smith, Jay Flannery-Bettine, Nai Zhao, Amy Fleck-Rossetti, Catherine Kronyak, Talia Martinez, Yvonne Smoker, and many more for their tireless work on very tight timelines to get this out and to apply what we've learned from our past 3 Small Business Relief Fund processes into this round. I also want to note that yesterday was the first day of Hispanic Heritage Month, which runs September 15th through October 15th, and there are a number of events scheduled. These have been reimagined given our current conditions, but one of the first events to kick off the month is a special promotion presented by a group of Oregon wineries with Latinx roots. The wineries are offering a special wine or a wine selection to commemorate Hispanic Heritage Month. 10% of sales will be donated to the Latino Partnership Program of the Oregon Community Foundation, which funds efforts within education, leadership development, and community bridge building that address social and economic issues within Oregon's Latinx community. You can learn more about these wineries and the winemakers by visiting celebratinghispanicroots.com. And finally, I'm also very excited to announce that My People's Market is hosting a abbreviated marketplace at the Old Town Chinatown 4th and Cooch parking lot, which is at 417 Northwest Cooch. You can discover nearly 100 businesses spread across 3 days, each day featuring talented, creative, Black, Indigenous, and people of color owned businesses. The market focuses on the safety and healthy of our communities. Tickets are free, but they are required in order for us to make sure that this is a healthy environment for everyone for the 3 days of the market. So that those days are Friday, September 25th from 2 to 6 p.m., Saturday, September 26th from 10 to 2 p.m., and Sunday, September 25th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. For more information and to get tickets, you can go to mypeoplesmarket.com and you can click on MPM6. It's our 6th My People's Market, and I want to appreciate Amanda Park and her leadership for coming up with new ways to do this, and all of our partners. We definitely missed having My People's Market this past summer, so I'm encouraged to see it, even if it's in a different format this fall. So with that, I'll say thank you and turn it back to you, Chair Cruz.
Thanks very much. That was a great report. I apologize to everyone. I forgot to read a little disclaimer notice at the beginning, so please bear with me. I'm going to go back and do that right now very quickly. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the need to limit in-person contact and promote social distancing, Prosper Portland is holding this meeting electronically as allowed by state law. All members of the commission are attending remotely by phone or video. And Prosper Portland has made several avenues available for the public to listen to the audio broadcast of this meeting. The public can also provide written testimony to the commission by emailing feigenbutzp@prosperportland.us. That's feigenbutzp@prosperportland.us. Thanks very much, and sorry I missed that the first time. So next up, meeting minutes. We have minutes to approve for the August 12th, 2020 meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Please.
I'll second the motion.
Great, thank you. All right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, great, thank you. Minutes are approved unanimously. Do we have any public comments so far? Pam, have you received anything?
I have not.
Okay. And as I mentioned earlier, the email address is feigenbutzp, FEIGENBUTZP @prosperportland.us. So if anyone listening or participating has any public comments they'd like to make, please go ahead and send those, and maybe we can try to address them toward the end of the meeting if necessary. All right. Next up, we have item 6. This is our regular agenda item. This is an action item authorizing a purchase and sale agreement with Mortenson Development for the airspace development rights for a 100 Multnomah office building in the Oregon Convention Center Tax Increment Finance District. And Eric Jacobson will present on this one. Eric, are you on the line?
I am. Good afternoon, Chair.
Great. Hi there.
How you doing today? Glad to see you. Yes, I'm glad to bring this action item to the board for your review and approval. This is a project we've been working on for a number of years. Next slide, please. So we're here to ask you to adopt Resolution 7398, which will authorize a purchase and sale agreement with Mortenson Development for the purchase of the airspace development rights for 100 Multnomah office building. The 100 Multnomah office building is designed to be about 138,000 gross square feet 9-story office building that's been designed to be built adjacent to and on top of the parking garage that Prosper Portland owns across the street from the Oregon Convention Center and across the street from the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Next slide. So for context, here's the location close in Northeast Lloyd District. The Hyatt Regency Hotel is located on the block between 2nd and MLK. And the garage, which Prosper Portland owns, is located between Holiday and Multnomah Streets, between 1st and 2nd Avenues. Both the hotel and the garage completed construction late 2019 and began operations, and unfortunately had to close down earlier this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide. So this is an illustration of the garage as it currently exists. Just to give you an idea of what it looks like today, and then I'll show you a few pictures to show you what the office building is intended to look like. So next slide. So here's that same sort of view with the garage in the foreground and the office building built adjacent to and on top of the parking garage. Next slide. This is another view of that. And then next slide. And then these are two other views of it. And on the left, you can see that's the office building lobby on the corner of Multnomah and 2nd Avenue. So next slide. So as I mentioned, this project has a long history. It really dates back to when we originally first started designing the garage, when we realized that the site had additional development capacity. And over the years, the board has had the opportunity to review and provide direction and authorize expenditures leading to today's action. So just want to go over a few of those. So the first major decision the board made was in December 2016. At that time, the board authorized the construction of the garage for about $33 million. And at that time, the design included approximately $3 million worth of infrastructure that was needed to support the eventual development of the office building. So that was a really significant step in the direction of moving towards building this office building, because at that time we could have changed the design of the garage and stripped out those infrastructure components if there really wasn't a desire to move forward with the office building. The second major decision was in February 2018. At that time, the board approved a design contract with Mortenson Construction to pursue a concept plan, which was a feasibility study of about $500,000. That was really going to further investigate this and flesh out what this office building would actually start to look like. And it was at that time that we also conducted a search and selected local architect, ZGF Architects, to be the architect for the office building. The next review was in January 2019. At that time, the feasibility plan and concept had been completed, and we realized that the building was feasible, and the board authorized increasing our commitment to this project to $4.6 million. And that was to pursue design of the project through schematic design and 50% design development. We subsequently held 2 information items with the board in March and April of 2019 to provide you with updates on the design. And then in July 2019, the board approved a design build contract with Mortenson Construction that increased our investment in the project to about $6.1 million. And that included completion of the design work through construction documents and permitting, which is where we are today. So next slide. So here's a quick status on where we are with both the garage and the office building. So as I mentioned, the garage was completed in December 2019. We began operations coincident with the beginning of operations of the Hyatt Regency Hotel. And then in March 2020, we had to close the garage because the hotel also closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. TriMet, I haven't mentioned this previously, but TriMet purchased for $9 million a condominium interest in the garage for a transit police precinct. And they are just now completing their tenant improvements and expect to move into the building within the next month. The 100 Multnomah office building, we received design review approval in August 2019, and we submitted for building permits in November 2019, and we're anticipating those permits to be ready to be issued in October or November of this year. Next slide. So in terms of our strategic plan alignment, this project will support jobs, increase the build out and support further employment within the Lloyd District neighborhood, and will also further our partnership with Mortenson Development and Mortenson Construction, which dates back to about 10 years ago when Mortenson Development partnered with Metro and Prosper Portland to develop the Hyatt Regency Hotel, and Mortenson Development and Mortenson Construction were both partners with Prosper Portland as they were the design builders for the garage. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the board has had the opportunity to provide direction to staff over the years on this project. And the board expressed a strong preference for Prosper to find a development partner that would eventually take over the financing and tenanting and construction and ownership of the office building. And so March of last year, we amended our contract with Capacity Commercial to include marketing the property for sale. And that included a targeted marketing effort to developers of color, both locally and nationally. Capacity Commercial issued a call for offers in April of 2020, with those offers due in May 2020. And through that process, we received 3 offers. And staff reviewed those 3 offers and ended up selecting the Mortenson Development team as being the preferred development partner. And the 2 primary reasons supporting that decision were Mortenson's track record with completing projects of this scale. And secondly, their offer was not contingent upon tenanting or financing contingencies prior to closing. So it meant that Mortenson was offering to purchase this development opportunity without having those tenanting and financing commitments in hand. Next slide, please. So after the selection of Mortenson, Prosper Portland executed a non-binding letter of intent with Mortenson that served as the basis for the negotiated purchase and sale agreement, which is an attachment to the resolution. And I'll just run through a few of the key terms. The base purchase price is $6.65 million, plus Mortenson will pay interest after the end of the due diligence period and prior to closing, but their purchase price will not exceed $7 million. There is a $50,000 earnest money payment that will be put up upon execution of the purchase and sale agreement and is refundable during the due diligence period, but then non-refundable after the waiving of due diligence contingencies. Prosper Portland has the potential to earn a leasing success fee and an upside participation fee in the event so we've been working with Capacity Commercial for a couple of years to market the property for lease. And if those efforts bear fruit prior to closing, Prosper Portland would basically be recognized as having been successful and contributing towards tenanting and financing the project. And we would earn a fee of between $50,000 and $200,000 And then we would also potentially participate in an upside participation if there was a sale of the asset within 10 years. There's a due diligence period prior to closing that Mortenson has, and during this due diligence period, Mortenson can walk away from this deal. The due diligence period is tied to the formation of the condominium for the building, which is still in process and we think may take about 4 months. Once the due diligence period ends, Mortenson will close within 30 days thereafter. And because of the complex nature of this project, there's not like a bare piece of land we can convey to them. What we're going to do is we're going to assign to Mortenson the right to develop this building on our property. And then upon completion of the building, the condominium documents will be amended to recognize that this new portion of the condominium now exists and Mortenson will own that condominium unit. Prosper Portland's green building and equity policies will apply to this transaction. So throughout, in terms of green building, throughout the whole design process, the building's been designed to achieve LEED Gold. And then our building business and workforce policies will apply to the construction of the project. Next slide. So in terms of the equity impact, the primary equity impact will really be on the construction side of this project. It has an estimated construction cost of about $45 million. Next slide. And so this is, we have a track record with working with Mortenson Development and Mortenson Construction, in particular on the garage, and which was most recently completed project we worked with them on. So these are their performance metrics on business and workforce equity for the garage at the top. And just run through those real quickly. You can see the mandatory requirement in terms of apprenticeship goals, they exceeded. In terms of the aspirational goals for minority and female participation, they fell short of those goals. Working down business equity for construction, this is the certified firms. Mortenson exceeded the 20% goal. And then on the professional services side, they also exceeded the 20% goal. And then at the bottom there, you see 100 Multnomah for business equity for professional services. So we've already completed the majority of the design for the project, and Mortenson has achieved 26%, which exceeds the 20% goal in terms of professional services. So for this project, Mortenson will need to also comply with our policies going forward. And one of the key factors, and this is, I should have mentioned this earlier, one of the factors that contributed to their selection is they are proposing to partner with Pacific Mark Construction on this project. Pacific Mark is a local minority-owned contractor. Next slide, please. And Mortenson is proposing to partner with them in a mentoring relationship. And I have, at the meeting today, we have Nate Gundrum from Mortenson Development and Mike Clifford from Mortenson Construction. And they're available to answer any questions you may have about either their qualifications to complete this project, and also if you have any questions related to their partnership with Pacific Mark. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation and turn it back to you, Chair Cruz.
Great, thank you, Eric. That was a very good presentation. Appreciate the information. Thanks to Mr. Gundrum and Mr. Clifford for joining us today. Do the commissioners have any questions or comments like to make at this time?
I do have a question. And apologize for the mask. I'm at work, so not in the safety of my own home. With respect to the subcontracting with Pacific Mark, how do you anticipate that'll affect the performance metrics we just saw on the slide for Mortenson?
Yeah, this is Mike Clifford with Mortenson Construction. We anticipate that it'll be a benefit. We've worked with Mark in the past, and we're excited to work with him again. Mostly about it's a little bit about our journey and our learning, but Mark holds a number of relationships within the community, and that can only help strengthen our ability on both the contracting side and the workforce side.
So do we have an idea even now, just sort of an estimated impact on those actual metrics, the actual numbers, or is it at this point to be seen?
I think it's to be seen. If anticipating the construction would start next year, there'd be a couple of factors that affect it. Mark's involvement in the project would be one. It'd also be the economy and the number of jobs expected. When the garage and the hotel were built, the market was extremely busy, and just finding available workers was challenging. We expect that to be a little less challenging next year, and have the opportunity to really look to bring employees from the community on who may not be employed without this project.
Can you speak a little bit more? So that just looking at sorry, this is Francesca speaking. The female and minority participation in the garage fell a little bit short of targets. And do you think you'll be able to reach those in this component?
Yes, we do, and we've seen our own demographics amongst our own workforce increase over the last, I'd say, year, where we're actually on our own demographics exceeding those percentages in our workforce, and we would see an ability to get there on this project, absolutely.
And this is Francesca again. Can you talk a little bit about what you see as maybe the biggest risks in terms of getting to the closing on this project?
I can take that one, Mike. This is Nate Gundrum. Good afternoon, members of the board. I think, this isn't a straightforward kind of ground up project. We're developing, air rights. And so there's a lot of complexities that come along with that from a logistics standpoint. And so we've been working closely with both Prosper and TriMet, given their interest in the ground floor condo unit, on things like a construction logistics plan, a disruption avoidance plan, things to that effect. I think that will be the biggest risk, just working through those logistics to physically construct the project.
And what about in terms of just getting to closing? Do you see any major obstacles? I mean, we've got all kinds of crises on top of crises right now, but you guys are still moving forward here, which is great. What I guess do you see in the next few months that could be an obstacle, if any?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're having to take a long-term approach to the development of this project. At some point the COVID pandemic will resolve itself, and long-term we believe in this site for a number of reasons. We love the location, we love the access to mass transit, the proximity to parking, the visibility from the interstate. And I think long-term we believe in this location. We do have several other kind of speculative office projects in development around the country. And while it certainly has gotten a lot more difficult in terms of the capital markets, we have found groups out there to pursue those types of projects. So we're confident we can get this done in the time frame that Eric outlined in his presentation.
Thanks.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Stoudemire, do you have any questions? Okay. My only question my main question in the briefing session was just with respect to the economics overall, and I was satisfied from our discussion that we had done about as well as we could as an agency under the circumstances. Eric, do you want to add anything to that, or do you have any additional comments you'd like to make there?
No, just I think we kind of mentioned the board report, I didn't cover it in my presentation, is, Prosper Portland is essentially breaking even on our investment to date. And, under the circumstances, I feel like that is a really positive outcome. Because when we started this, it was really, we were trying to accomplish two things. One is to maximize development of the site, and then hopefully to at least, break even on our investment. And we're doing that. There is the potential for some upside if we're successful with our leasing efforts, although those are really challenged right now by the COVID situation. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that was called out in the report, that we're basically breaking even on our investment, and that can be viewed as a success for this project.
Great, thank you very much. Commissioner Stoudemire, did you have any comments or questions? Otherwise, I think we're about ready to vote. Okay. All right, well, thank you very much to our Mortenson partners. Thank you for attending today and for your comments and responses to our questions. Really appreciate that. So would someone like to make a motion to approve resolution number 7398 regarding the purchase and sale agreement with Mortenson for this property? Please.
So moved.
So moved. Great. Thank you, Commissioner Platt. Do we have a second?
So second.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Great. Passes unanimously. Thanks very much to everyone. Appreciate all your hard work on this. It's great to see it moving forward.
Thank you all. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so next up we have item number 7. This is an information item, an update on the City of Portland 4-month Economic Stabilization Framework. And Trolls Adrian will present. Welcome, Trolls. Good to see you.
Thank you, Chair Cruz. Good afternoon, Commissioner. Good afternoon, Director Branham. For the record, my name is Trolls Adrian, as Chair Cruz mentioned. I am the manager for the business and industry team here at Prosper Portland. I am here, though, in a matter that is slightly beyond our regular scope of work at the business and industry team, although we are certainly part of this particular initiative. We have been engaged over the past really 6+ months since the beginning of the pandemic in convening and corralling, even if you will, a task force with stakeholders from across the city, trying to put together the most equitable and responsive plan to address the very real challenges our economy is facing as a result of the pandemic. And of course, over that time, we have seen additional impacts from the racial justice movement that has risen up, and now we anticipate potentially additional issues coming up around the wildfires and the air quality issues that we're all experiencing right now. So what I'm here to talk to you about is sort of the latest iteration of our thinking here. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this slide may be familiar to those of you all who have been involved in our task force. It is a slide that attempts to kind of map out the overall response that government and its partners, both at the city and in Multnomah County and at the state, is engaging in terms of both an economic and a public health response. When we first put this slide together, we were anticipating that the progression would be fairly linear, although we were also expecting that there would be disparate impacts, particularly along racial lines within our communities. So we were anticipating we would be moving essentially from a relief to a stabilization to then a reopening and recovery phase. What we have found, and I will illustrate in a second, is that the reality is slightly more complicated, but the overall progression we are certainly seeing, if we're looking at sort of on an industry by industry, sector by sector, maybe somewhat neighborhood by neighborhood basis. What we're continuing to see, of course, is that there is a strong degree of interrelationship between the public health response and the economic response. And I will also speak to that a little bit. So next slide, please. So I do apologize for the horrendous graphics here. The work on this discussion around the recovery is moving so quickly that apparently graphic designers can't keep up. This was the best we could do. But what we're essentially seeing from a lot of economists right now is this, if you recall in the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of discussion. What would the letter of the recession be? Will it be a V shape where we go deep into a hole and come right up? Will it be a U where we stay at the bottom for a while and then we come very quickly up again? Will it be a square root? Will it be a swoosh like the Nike swoosh? What we're increasingly starting to realize is that there is an aspect to this recovery that is K-shaped, if you will. So we're seeing some industries, particularly those that are staffed by professional workers, people who were able to work from home essentially and who could kind of pick up without a beat, recovering relatively well, some recovering better than others. Whereas industries and professions that were impacted directly by having to take social distancing measures or were directly impacted by people's inability to travel or eat out or shop were hit very, very hard and continue to see impacts. So essentially, this unfortunately, because of the way our economy is structured, both in our city, our region, our state, our country, means that there's a very strong bifurcation along income and racial, and also to a fairly large extent gender lines. And so we're seeing exacerbation of existing fissures within our society, reflected all the way down to the individual sort of family level here in our community. Next slide, please. So the bottom line is that we have been monitoring the situation over time, and we have come to the realization that there's still a lot of unknowns because, as I mentioned, this K is still only beginning to emerge as a likely outcome for the recovery. So what we're proposing to have proposed to the task force is essentially that we will continue being in a stabilization mode over the course of the coming 3 to 4 months. And then we will pick up a more long-term strategic planning exercise in the beginning of the new year in the expectation or under the expectation that we will know more than what you see on this slide right now. I will go through the unknowns in a bit, but here's what we do know and what is informing our approach right now. First and foremost, we do know that even though there's a K-shaped recession, as some of you all who are on this call and some of the folks out in the community may be seeing that they're doing fairly well. We do know that there is a strong relationship between public health and economic health for the entire economy. We won't fully recover until the virus has been addressed and until we are past the pandemic. We also know, as I mentioned earlier, that the impacts of both the public health side and the economic health side are disproportionately borne by BIPOC communities, BIPOC businesses, BIPOC employees, and the communities that they live within, that we're seeing essentially everywhere in the country. We're also seeing that, and we can speak to this, of course, here in Portland, the challenges that are impacting local jurisdictions and states are immense, and they're wide-ranging of multiple varieties. And this really does challenge the ability of state and local governments to respond to the multiple crises they're having to deal with. That being said, the responsiveness that we can show as a city and the creativity that we can show can have an impact. And we've seen that just in one case, for example, the Peabody Healthy Streets program, for example, which has, or Healthy Business program, excuse me, which has really helped a lot of retailers and restaurants continue to maintain sales, even in the face of strong adversity. Another thing we know, or at least are beginning to see, is that there will be impacts on the construction industry. We don't know what they are necessarily yet, but there is an ongoing pipeline of projects for now. We are seeing some concerns in the permit data that suggest that a slowdown might be coming. How quickly that slowdown shows up and how quickly we get out of it, that's still very much unknown. I'll get to that in a second. We also know that the moratoriums that have been put in place, or moratoria, I guess, both residential and commercial eviction and foreclosure moratoria, will have a lasting impact, and the extent of which they can be continued will have an impact in terms of survivability of small businesses, but it also, of course, has an impact on the landlord side of things. And then finally, and this is why this work is important and why we believe it's important to have this 3 to 4 month framework where we continue pushing as much as we possibly can without breaking ourselves, is that the deeper the regional recession we experience, the more significant we know the long-term damage will be. There's an economic development researcher out of Michigan State, the Upjohn Institute, Tim Barczyk, who has done a lot of work on this. His work has essentially shown that the deeper a recession gets in a region, the more workers will be dislocated, the more businesses will go out of business or have lasting impact on their credit scores, et cetera. And that stuff takes a very, very long time to sort out, if it ever does. And so that means the more you can, strap out the safety net under businesses and workers now, the more folks and businesses you can kind of catch in that, the less damage it will do long-term to your overall economic health. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what we don't yet know, I teased this a little bit, and of course there's much, much more than can just be fitted on one slide, but these are really the important points that we believe is hindering our ability to sort of think in the very long term right now, beyond the months. Number one, we don't know the duration of the pandemic just yet. There's encouraging data coming out around availability of vaccines, et cetera, but we still don't know. And again, given the intertwining nature of economic and public health, we won't really be able to have a good sense of that trajectory until we know what a vaccine looks like, how quickly it will be administered, and how effective it is. The second big thing is that even though we have a K-shaped recession, we still don't know fully what the impacts will be on global trade and on traded sector industries within the city of Portland. For example, one of the things we do know is that the aerospace industry has been hit disproportionately hard. Well, our metals and machinery manufacturers are supplying a lot of products into the aerospace supply chain, particularly in the Boeing supply chain. And so even though we may have overall strong growth in traded sector industries across the United States or even across the Pacific Northwest, those firms may still be hurting very, very badly at the end of the day. And we will need to really monitor that from a strategic standpoint. So the impact on our clusters, the impact on our traded sectors is still somewhat unknown. And then there's some longer term questions that we're still trying to figure out how are going to shake out. And some of them may not shake out for years, but again, a few months should afford more clarity. Longer term outlook for real estate markets, we just talked about this around the item you just heard. Long-term impact around property foreclosures, long-term impacts around the development and construction pipeline that I mentioned earlier. We also don't quite know what the consumer behavior that we're seeing right now in our in our world is going to look like long-term. When we all went, we didn't all go home. I just again want to stress that many of the folks who are here at Prosper Portland, we were privileged enough to be able to work from home and be able to work essentially without skipping a beat. That's not the case for everybody, but for the folks who went home, we have been making investments in our homes. We've been improving on our gardens and all that stuff. That was a substitution effect, but we traveled less. Well, how much of that is going to stick? Are we going to see a permanent shift towards that in consumer behavior? We don't know that yet. We also don't know how this future is going to have an impact on different neighborhoods within our city. Some neighborhoods are recovering more quickly than others because there's a strong working from home base within them. Others are struggling mightily. And then finally, this is of course a big issue for our city. What is the impact on the state and local tax base? Not just in terms of how incomes recover, business and family incomes, but also what is the mix of recovery that can have a really big impact on tax intake for both the state and the city. So if you'll go to the next slide, please. All that this adds up to is just a tremendous amount of uncertainty. Now, this is admittedly now a few weeks old, but it still bears true. I think we think it's really important to remind everybody that in terms of our cumulative job losses in the economy, we still have not reached in our recovery of jobs the bottom of the 2007 employment recession. And so we probably at some point will, we are seeing fairly decent job numbers in terms of our recovery, but it still amounts to an immense amount of uncertainty out there. And so we are seeing this in the companies that we talk to. We see this really across the board, that folks are still trying to feel out what the economy is going to look like, what the recovery looks like. The election is playing into this. So there's still a lot of uncertainty left. Now, you just saw my son, Lars. I apologize, Lars. I'm sorry, you're going to have to leave, buddy. If you will excuse me for a second.
This is Trolls' experience, of like the dad who had like the kid run into.
Geez, I can't relate to this at all.
We should be taping these moments. Don't you think we should have these moments? These are
This is the best.
All right. I'm back. I apologize, but now I can tell my sons that they've made public access television, which is quite an achievement in their lives, their young lives. I apologize. We should get some Jeopardy music for this.
YouTube.
So if you,
Well done, Trolls.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So if you will go to the next slide, because I think I was done with this one. So all of this again amounts to this idea that we really need to engage in stabilization. There are certain portions of our economy that are doing well. However, there are others that are not, and we have limited resources as a community. We know, and they're dwindling. So we do need to focus the resources that we do have, both financial and in terms of bandwidth from staff within the city government and other places, on stabilizing as many businesses and households as we can. So the stabilization framework is stabilizing households, stabilizing businesses, and helping businesses adapt, survive, or potentially exit the in a way that is as the least disruptive as possible. We also want to focus stabilization on retaining our critical service network within the city. So community partners, our nonprofit infrastructure, so that when we do get into an earnest recovery, we can continue relying on those partners. And then finally, we want to focus on neighborhood stabilization, particularly in those neighborhoods that are currently the hardest hit by the COVID pandemic economy. Overall, this framework will of course continue prioritizing support to the most vulnerable historically within our community. So we will apply a racial equity lens. I want to stress that this of course includes deploying the CARES relief that we already are deploying, that Executive Director Branham mentioned earlier. We're also envisioning building as much as humanly possible on existing infrastructure so we can scale impact versus trying to build up from ground up. And then finally, as I mentioned, we're still really in a mode of uncertainty. So continuing behind the scenes, a lot of listening and learning to shorten the recovery period later. Next slide, please. So the timeline so far has been that we drafted out a 3-month roadmap that we presented to the task force in August. We were building on work group recommendations on the listening sessions that we've conducted over the summer, best practices that we're learning from other cities in our call with economic development directors, and also some of the data that we've seen come out most recently. Where we are right now is last week we provided an opportunity for task force members to provide feedback and input in an optional session. In full disclosure, that session was held during, I think, the height of anxiety around the wildfires. So we're going to be following up potentially with an additional survey in the coming days to get additional feedback and input, because people's mind space probably was more on those wildfires at the time. We will, at the end of this month, be presenting a proposed 3-month roadmap to the task force and then begin delivering on those priorities that we've identified with partners over the next 3 months. And as I mentioned earlier, we will then in January be looking to kick off a next phase of a recovery planning process. Next slide, please. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, we are this, we have these 4 buckets that we're looking to do stabilization on. These are very busy slides, so I won't go over them in gory detail, but I want to just highlight on the left what you're going to see on each slide. You're going to see the items that we're already working on. We want to be clear that this is we are working hard on a lot of things already, many of which are actually the work group recommendations that came out of the task force engagement over the spring and summer. We also want to be clear that, as I mentioned, resources are dwindling. And so some of the items that we have put here, we have faithfully put them on because they've come up in our listening sessions or through conversations or even directly from work groups, but they may require new resources that are not currently available. And we want to be truthful to that. So on the right, you'll see some of the potential interventions that are there that we're seeking feedback on. These have been co-developed with work systems. They range from connecting with people receiving unemployment insurance to support their career development, all the way to some of the larger ticket items, like we want to make sure that when we get into a recovery, we are aligned between housing, workforce, childcare, and transportation efforts to support sort of career track training and advancement, because there may be shifts in the economy. I will give you just 10 seconds or maybe 3 seconds to read this slide, and then I'll move on. All right, next slide, please. On the business resources slide, we're splitting this into 2. So the first push is really around continuing to provide direct support for BIPOC-owned and other vulnerable businesses. We, again, on the left, have a number of items that are fairly large and are already in progress. Of course, the biggest of all is the CARES Act funding that has been allocated towards small business relief. Around the potential interventions, there's a big focus around measurement and equity in construction and procurement. There is also a proposal potentially to extend programs that provide relief on utility payments. And then finally, again, recognizing that eviction moratoria are going to be an important thing to look at, really figuring out, is there a way to potentially tie a moratorium to an official declared end of the pandemic? At the moment, we're seeing this intermittent extension of them. Would it make sense to, for example, just once and for all sort of have a trigger that would declare a moratorium ended when something happens? Next slide, please. The other side of our business work is going to be around removing barriers. So there's the direct assistance, but then there's also making it easier for businesses to adapt and operate during the restrictions that we're operating under right now. You'll notice on the left, there's been a ton of work already done, both within Prosper, but certainly also across the city, to really make it as feasible as possible for businesses to continue operating. On the right, there's a lot of interventions around, if you will, weatherizing our retail and restaurant economy through the winter season. That's probably the biggest conversation that's going on right now. So you will see multiple items around that, including is there a way, for example, for businesses to operate outside of PBOT right of or public right of way, get permits to do that. Lots and lots of conversations. Also, how can we potentially make sure that folks have the equipment they need, tents, heaters, furniture, et cetera. And then finally, this has been an ongoing, actually, kind of conversation and issue, particularly in light of the state of Washington going in a different direction, encouraging the OLCC to allow cocktails to go. That's not something the city directly controls, but it's certainly something that keeps bubbling up from the task force. So we have put that on there as well. Next slide, please. Mentioned earlier, this is really important work around maintaining our civic infrastructure. Nonprofits have been hard hit for a number of reasons. One of them, unfortunately, being that the PPP and EIAC program, the federal relief programs, were not made available to 501c6 organizations, but also, of course, giving is down across the board. So we want to make sure that we continue working on supporting our nonprofit infrastructure, both in the arts, in civic organizations, and of course, social services and business services. So potential interventions there include a work group recommendation around free or reduced rent for arts organizations, expanding technical assistance and legal support, and then finally providing technical assistance for grant writing using actual maybe city expertise so that they can go out and access the philanthropic potentially and government resources that are available out there still. Next slide, please. And then finally, neighborhood-based financial interventions. We continue to see a demand for investment in neighborhoods that are struggling right now. On the right side there, you're really looking at potentially greater coordination with PHB and the Joint Office. You're looking at community-led infrastructure improvements, which was something the work group recommendation, and maybe a longer term, but conversation can be started. And then conducting really thoughtful outreach and make sure that we focus our resources to at-risk property owners for stabilization of certain businesses that are viewed as key to community survival and communities thriving within some of our neighborhoods. Next slide, please. I believe that is it. And I'm happy to take your questions.
Charles, thank you very much. That was a great overview. One quick question. A lot of good work and thought there going into ways that we can better utilize resources and programs we already have, as well as new ideas and new resources to deal with this downturn. But I wonder, what's the strategy for kind of public relations on this and getting the word out to people that these resources are available? I'm always worried that some of our best work kind of goes, unrecognized to some degree by the public at large, because it's just hard to get the word out. And I wonder kind of what your thoughts are about that.
I would not be the right person to answer that question. So what I will do is I will defer to Executive Director Branham for an initial answer, and then she's welcome to call on anyone else.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer it. The air filter is rather loud in my room, so if it's too loud for you, I'll let me know. But I think the work that we've done and the team has done on the Small Business Relief Fund was really to get at that point, Chair Cruz, in terms of how do we make sure that everybody is aware of it, and that we're not relying on traditional media sources or social media or word of mouth or organizations in order to make sure that businesses are aware. So the team actually sent mailers to 30,000 people to make sure, 30,000 businesses to make sure that they received and were made aware of it. We did work through nonprofit organizations to help get the word out, sort of a multi-channeled, multi-layered approach. There has been some media coverage. So, I think, and particularly doing it in multiple languages is helpful in terms of accessibility. One opportunity that we have once people either apply for a grant, or if we have a point of contact, is that they can get on our email list. And then there's a lot more visibility in terms of what it is that we're doing. And so I think, we're hopeful that between the 11,000 businesses that engaged with us for the first round, and now probably many more thousand in the second round, that will increase our reach in terms of getting the word out to a diverse number of businesses that might not otherwise be, we might not be engaging with. But, we're also continuing to work with the communications team. Commissioner Platt has brought up this too, just in terms of how do we tell our story in a compelling way. And so, right now we've been very focused on the CARES Act, and then also, frankly, on Broadway Corridor. So I think in a few weeks, once this is this big push has completed, we'll probably have some more breathing room in order to think more holistically about this round of planning and how we get the word out.
That's great. Thanks very much. And that's exciting. I hadn't heard about some of those initiatives, so really glad to hear that. Thank you.
Thanks,
Do you have other questions and comments for Trolls?
Yes, quick question, Trolls. I presume that presentation, the slide deck is available either in our current packet or will be sent around, because I think that's incredibly valuable background information to have. Some sobering statistics that chart in particular showing the depth of the recession is really tells a lot. So I appreciate all the work that you guys have been doing to look at the full breadth of all the challenges and try to focus our time and resources in the areas where we're going to have the most impact. So I think there's going to be a lot more lessons to be learned in the months ahead as to figuring out exactly what kind of models of economic intervention are going to work best. So look forward to keeping up to speed with all that. So thanks again.
Yeah, we will certainly make sure that it's available to the commission, and it is already available to the task force as well. And thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Trolls? And I'd love to get a copy of that too. I don't think I've seen that deck, so I'd love that. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, thanks very much, Trolls. That's great. Great work, and trying to tackle a lot of things all at once. And really appreciate your hard work and the team's hard work on that. So are there any other issues for today or items that folks would like to discuss? We're doing pretty well on time, but I will gavel the meeting to a close if we have nothing further. Pam, did we get any public comment?
I have a quick question.
No further comment, Chair Cruz.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Commissioner Stoudemire.
So in our minutes, last meeting, we were talking about the housing project. There was going to be a task force that you're going to put together so we can look at compliance and how we're going to do housing going forward because of COVID. Are we, have we started that, or are we getting that going? And if so, I would like to be a part of it.
So good question, Commissioner. We definitely shared with Bridge the concerns. I think you saw the response from them. And then we shared with the Housing Bureau that there was a lot of discussion from our board. I think that, given the role that they play, they're really looking holistically at what's happening across the housing sphere. And so I think they've taken that input, and we can follow up with them in terms of what that means for their portfolio of assets. One thing that Eric did raise, though, is that we ourselves have a property at Lentz Town Center. And so we have our own housing that we're running right now. And so there might be an opportunity for us to think about within our own portfolio, how are we ensuring that we're supporting individuals given the health crisis.
Right. And I thought we were going to look at the compliance issues and if there's anything we could do about that too. I think it's, I don't have the notes in front of me, but yeah, but I'll call you.
Okay, great. I appreciate that.
Okay.
On that same note, it reminded me because I'd sent some contacts and some information with respect to some of the research that we had done at the restaurant as both a building operator and a business operation. So I'm wondering if there was any follow-up specifically with any of the academic community, those who are doing the research at the Oregon Building Lab, for example, on a lot of these issues having to do with, what are the best systems? How can we test them over the long term that, could be adaptable to both residential and commercial settings going forward. I also happen to think it's an interesting business opportunity for our green building community try and tackle because this is, a post-COVID future is going to involve a lot of preparations for COVID-like events that may be coming down the pike, in our lifetime. So we're certainly going to see more of this type of event, not less, based on what the epidemiologists are saying. So I think it's a prudent course of action to look at ways in which we can kind of learn from this and then perhaps apply lens of entrepreneurship to the opportunity and say, look, we could do something about this. Maybe there's an opportunity that, again, as I'd mentioned on a prior call, for Prosper Portland to facilitate that conversation.
So I know that I sent that on to a team member, and we'll see. I think I mentioned earlier just the push in terms of staffing capacity around the CARES Fund and getting that out right now. So I think that's been a lot of the people who we would have working on what you're talking about and facilitating those conversations have been working like seven days a week on getting the CARES funding out. So, what I do want to highlight though, Commissioner Platt, is that I think that point that you're making is an important thing that we should add to the next 4 months of bringing folks together to see where there are opportunities, but also how we support businesses, within, particularly since we didn't have a September where people can be outdoors, and so we're looking at needing to be indoors and having indoors be clean. So that feels like an important thing to add as an item, and certainly something that is directly involved with Troll's team, given the work on We Build Green Cities, and just would open that invitation to board members more broadly. If there are things that you feel like are opportunities for us, the draft that Tori and the team have been working on, and that Trolls and folks have been continuing to refine. I think it's meant to be an iterative process. It's meant to expand with conversation. So if there are things that occur to you that are opportunities or that are really high priorities, either now or in the next few weeks, please let us know.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Are there any further comments or questions or other issues that we haven't discussed? Okay. All right then. Well, there being no further items on the agenda, the Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners meeting for today is now adjourned. Thanks to everybody. Really appreciate your time, and it was a good meeting. Thank you.